Today's video is a little bit different. It's a video that I should have done a long time ago, maybe even when I first started the channel here, but I didn't. And over the years, people have asked me to do this video, and they've asked in various ways, just by asking who somebody is, because they're confused, which should have led me to think of it. But there's also been people that actually just said, couldn't you do a video, make a chart, do something, and tell who everybody is that you talk about and how they're connected, a cast of characters, if you will. Now, on my blog, Blind Pig and the Acorn, on my About page, I have kind of that. I show some pictures and I tell who some of the people are, and that makes it easier for people. I can just direct them there. That's another reason I should have already done this video, because then I could just say, here's a video that explains it all, and you can watch it and see who everyone is and see how they fit together in our lives. So that's what I'm going to do today. And if you're new to our channel and you don't even know who I am, my name is Presley, and I've been celebrating all things Appalachian since way back in 2008. Is when I first started the Blind Pig and the Acorn blog, which is still going today, still going strong today, have wonderful readers there. And then in 2020, Matt and I, my husband Matt, we made this channel, Celebrating Appalachia, here on YouTube. And since then, we've been doing that for full-time employment. We have videos where we talk about how the progression of it, and I'll link to some of those in the description below. I'll definitely link to my blog. But so it's been a progression. It wasn't immediate that we got to leave our full-time jobs, but eventually we did. So this is our full-time living today, is Celebrating Appalachia, in conjunction with the blog. But I really don't make any money from the blog. It's just a true passion, love, just a place for me to share my thoughts, but really to celebrate Appalachia too. And, you know, whether we're talking about the foodways, the music, the folklore, whatever it may be, sharing old pictures and talking about that, talking about, of course, the wonderful language. You know, if you watch our videos, I'm plumb foolish about the beautiful language of Appalachia, rich, colorful, from the way we sound to the words and phrases, all of it. I just love it. So I will link to some of those that tell a little bit more information, but basically that's me, Presley. I love Appalachia. It's my home. It's where I was born and raised. I love to celebrate it and try to preserve it. And that's what my calling is in this old world, as we would say. Now, my husband, who I mentioned, Matt, we've been married 30 years, long time. Hard for me to even say that. It seems like it was just yesterday that we got married. We've been married 30 years. We dated for about 4 years before that, so we've been together for a long, long time. And he did not live here. Maybe I should have said that. I forgot. I was born and raised here where we live today in Brasstown in western North Carolina. Matt did not live here. He was born and raised in Haywood County, North Carolina, still western North Carolina though, but a few counties away from me here. And we have a video that talks about when we met and all that kind of stuff. I can link to that one too. But when we did meet and we dated, and we eventually decided we was going to get married, you know, when it come to that, we both decided we would live here. Instead of in Haywood County, we would move back to Cherokee County. Of course, by that point, he'd been out here a lot. He loved the area. It's a less populated area than Haywood County. That was probably his biggest draw. It was more secluded, more just basically less populated. Now it's grew a lot in the 30 years that we've been married, but still, it is still even today less populated than Haywood County. So he moved here, and that's my wonderful husband Matt. He's a big part of the channel, so if you watch all our videos, you know you see him in different videos. He's got some videos he does all by himself, and then lots of videos where he joins me to talk about Appalachia, or to, you know, if we're working in the garden or cooking food or whatever we're doing that day. Next up, of course, is our children. We have twin daughters, Corey and Katie, and they have their own YouTube channel, which is unique. Kind of, we're a family. Actually, there's 3 channels connected with our family. I'll talk about the other one in a moment. But they have their own channel, the Presley Girls. So they are local musicians. They don't get to make as much music these days because now they're both mothers, but they are wonderful children. We were really blessed with having twins. Didn't even know if I could have children. That's a whole video. There's one where we talk about that too, you could watch. But we're very blessed to have them, and of course, just like everyone else, we think our children are extra special, so we're really proud of Katie and Corey. And you can find out more about them on their channel. But so they do that. They do YouTube as kind of an income. And then also Katie, Corey does gardens and does all kinds of things, so I don't want to sell her short, but she doesn't have like another income besides that. Katie does. Katie is a silversmith, a lapidary artist, and does very well with her business, Stamy Creek Creations, and I will link to her Etsy shop in the description below so that you can go check out all the wonderful things that she creates and sells. So that's them. And like I said, they do the music things kind of on the down low now, mostly singing at churches or more intimate kind of settings, but hopefully someday they'll be back touring, and maybe you can see them somewhere. Then there's Corey's husband, the next person I'll talk about. So his name is Austin. Austin is from the state of Georgia, and we adore Austin. And me and Matt both say if we could have like wrote out exact, like this is like ordered from a mail order catalog, this is the husband we want for Corey, it would have been Austin. He's fantastic. We really love him. And he treats Corey like a queen. He's a wonderful father, works hard, very responsible, all those things. So he is wonderful. And then Corey and Austin, and then Katie's their children. They have children, Ira and Woodrow. Those are our grandsons. About 3 months between them in age. So that's really special that they've already got to grow up with each other. They will never remember not knowing each other. You know, it's really, really precious. And for me and Matt, has brought back tons of memories of our own girls growing up together. They never, Corey and Katie especially, because they were born on the same day. They were knitted together in my womb, you know, together. So they've never been separated very often. So especially in the early years, they just were with each other 24 hours a day, which made for a really special bond. If you're a twin, or if you know a twin, then you probably know all about that. Anyway, Ira and Woodrow, they're beautiful. We love them. We can't even imagine life without them now. My sister-in-law, Kim, would tell me before they were born, Tipper, it's the best thing ever. You just don't know what it's going to be like to be a grandmother. And she already had experience with that. She's already got grandkids in her family. And she was so right. She was so right. Now, the boys are not really shown on our channel, and sometimes that brings up some people, makes some people not happy. And I understand. Who doesn't want to see little cute children, you know? That's wonderful, and especially because they're part of our lives. But that was a decision that their parents made. That's a parent decision, not a grandmother decision, not a subscriber decision. That's a parent decision. Everyone has to make their own decisions for their children. And that was just something they didn't want to. They just didn't want to broadcast their children all over the internet, you know. If you watch all our videos, you know in a recent Q&A, Matt and I talked about kind of the ugly side of YouTube is getting letters that are not nice. Now, as we said in that video, 99.5% of all the feedback we get, whether it's emails, comments here on YouTube, letters in the mail, cards, y'all bless us so much. We have the best community ever. But there's a small little sliver that's not nice, that, you know, sometimes send threatening letters and things like that. That's the ugly side of life. You know, you could do that. Putting yourself out there, you're more open to that, but you could even run into that at your local, wherever you visit, you know, in your community. Maybe at the local restaurant, there's a bully or something like that. But that's certainly one of the reasons that they've made that decision is, you know, everyone is not as nice as you are watching right now. So that's part of it. And there's many other things that they took into consideration. And so they don't show the boys. You will see them every once in a while. Maybe if we're eating supper together or something like that, you may catch a glimpse of them. But as far as doing content that actually focuses on them, that's just something they don't do now. I don't do now. Because of course I wouldn't go against their wishes, but you know, that who knows, that might change in the future, or it may never change. That's just where they're at right now, and I know some people do not like that, and in one way I don't blame you, but then I know lots of people like me totally understand wanting to protect your children at all cost from all the crazy people out there. So I know most people understand totally, even though they would kind of like to see them. I know that. So then, now that's kind of my immediate family, and then we'll kind of branch off to that. Let's start with Matt's family. So Matt's mother and father, Tony and Cindy, they were divorced when Matt was very little, and he spent most of his growing up years with his father. That was just that way that they worked that out, and that's who basically raised him, was Tony. We call him Papa Tony. I have a video where I interviewed Papa Tony. I will link to that. And then, of course, Matt did have a relationship with his mother, and as he got older, it became stronger, and especially after me and him was married and we had children, she wanted to be a huge part of their lives. She was. And then she retired. And I should say, too, Matt is an only child. They never had other children, so Matt's an only child. But Miss Cindy retired. She lived in Black Mountain, North Carolina, up until the point that she retired. She lived there. We would go visit her. She'd come here and visit us. We had great relationship. And then once she retired, she moved. She wanted to be closer to us, of course. She wanted to help with anything she could help. She did help a lot with the girls. They were older by then. They didn't need a babysitter or anything, but she'd help in the garden. She'd help whatever. She'd say, I'll do any errand you want me to do. Anything you need me to do, she'd do it. So she was a wonderful help to us. But she wanted to move, so she moved here. She moved where we live, and that's where she spent the rest of her days. She's been gone now about 2 years. She had cancer. Even yesterday, Corey was up here and at our house, and we were eating some dinner, and she said, you know, Mama, sometimes I just look out the window and expect Miss Cindy to come barreling up the driveway. And even though it's been, 2 years since she's been gone now. But I said, I know. She would, almost every day, she'd stop by after she went to the gym. She was very health conscious in what she ate, and she worked out all the time. So she'd go to the gym and do whatever she needed to do. And then on her way home, she'd come by our house and just, for a few minutes, see what's going on. Can I help you? Can I do something? Or just visit with us for a few minutes. So I said, I know, Corey. And you say barreling up the driveways because our driveway is kind of steep and it's not always in the best condition. And she never had a car that had four-wheel drive, so she would just have to hit it really hard to make it up. So we all teased her about that part of it. Anyway, that was Miss Cindy. So when you hear us talk about Miss Cindy, and an interesting comment I got, one of the, not like the negative comments recently that I got was like that we were really rude and how offensive for us to call her Miss Cindy. And even after she was dead, we should never call her that. We should call her grandmother or mama or granny or whatever. Well, that's the thing with watching somebody on YouTube. You don't know all the ins and outs of their lives. That person didn't know that that's what Miss Cindy preferred to be called. That's what she asked to be called. So, that person just didn't realize that. That's no term of which I don't think is disrespect anyway. In the South in general and in Appalachia, it's very common to call people a lady, use their first name but put Miss in front of it. So even like at church or something, somebody might tell one of the little kids, let Miss Tipper help you with that. Go right over there and Miss Tipper will help you with that. That's just very common here. But that was a name that Miss Cindy selected herself when Corey and Katie were born. She didn't want to be called grandmother. She didn't want to be called granny or mama or nana or any of those kind of things. Not that she thought they were bad, but she just preferred something else, and Miss Cindy is what she preferred. So that was her. Now, Papa Tony, he's still alive and well, and amazingly for his age still works. He has an electrician business, so he's still running wire and hooking up stuff for people. Amazing. He's retired from the place he worked at, the mill there in Haywood County in Canton. And in the video, he talks more about that, so I'll link to that, and you can find out about it. And Papa Tony's great. He is very knowledgeable about the old ways, and he's a great cook. Miss Cindy was also knowledgeable about stuff too. I just should have said that about her. She was great. And Miss Cindy, I'll go back to her for 1 minute. She was my biggest cheerleader ever. Of anybody, of my family or anybody else. She was my cheerleader. No matter what I did, she wanted to help me do it. She was the best mother-in-law. I start crying if I'm not careful. But she was she was always willing to help and then to encourage me in whatever I chose to do, but especially the Blind Pig and the Acorn, this YouTube channel. She was my biggest cheerleader. She was a huge part of the Blind Pig and the Acorn. I see a beautiful little bird over there come to join us. I wish you could see it. It's all my sunflowers. Anyway, the Blind Pig and the Acorn name actually come from Miss Cindy, from a friend that she had. So that was, even that, she's part of that. So anyway, wonderful, all the stuff she did for us. But Papa Tony is great. He's a great cook. Makes the best pickled beans and corn you ever tasted. Makes wonderful hush puppies. He's just great. And he's very funny, too. He's very humorous. Matt gets his sense of humor from Papa Tony. Miss Cindy was more like me. She didn't have much of a sense of humor. So she was more like me. But Papa Tony is great, and he still lives in Haywood County, and him and Matt at this point of the year are looking forward to getting to go to deer camp together, and that will be great. And then Papa Tony is married. Her wonderful wife, we call her Nana. Jana is her name, and they've only been married a year longer than me and Matt, so they've been married about 31 years. So Nana is great, and she's been a real Nana to Corey and Katie, and a real good mother-in-law to me too, a step-mother-in-law if you want to call it that, but just a mother-in-law. She's been good to me and good to Corey and Katie, and she's a fantastic cook too. And I'm always amazed, just because she's just tenacious in everything she does, but she plays in a band. So she's in the band, plays the clarinet. I'll be feeling terrible if I get that wrong, but I think it's clarinet. In the Haywood County band there. She's wonderful, so she's performing in front of people and doing great things. So that's Janet, that's Nana. If you hear us talk about Nana, that's Nana, and then Papa Tony. The only other people we really mention in Matt's family, because again, he's the only child, is he's got lots of aunts and uncles and cousins that we love, all of them, but you might hear us talk about Aunt Wanda and Uncle Sam. And Aunt Wanda and Uncle Sam, they have a place out here. We say out here. It's at the lake, at Lake Chattooga up there, not too far from us. So they're here where we're at more than others, and they'll come visit us, and they dote on Corey and Katie, always have, and then they do the boys too now. So if you hear us talk about Uncle Sam and Aunt Wanda, those are Matt's aunt and uncle, Papa Tony's brother and his wife. So then that leads us to Pap and Granny, who I talk about, and that really confuses people. So Pap and Granny are actually Daddy and Mama to me. They're my parents. Jerry Marshall Wilson was my father. Evelyn Luzine Wilson, my mother. But once the grandkids come along, their first grandchild, mine and Matt's oldest nephew, Ben, he was the first one, then they become Granny and Pap to all of us. And we all say Granny and Pap, even though they're, my mama and my daddy, and Paul and Steve's mom and daddy, we just say Granny and Pap. I don't know if we just thought it would be easier or what, but that's really common in the mountains of Appalachia. When you become a grandparent, that name kind of takes over your other name, whether it was Mama or your first name or whatever. Granny is just one of the favorite people, though, on our channel. When I have Granny in a video, I know it'll do well because people just adore her. They just adore her, and she is great. She is battling cancer right now, and there's really nothing they can do. So she's just kind of trying to make the best of every day, and she does a good job of doing that. I think today she's getting to go to Walmart with Paul, so that'd be good. Yesterday I took her to the produce stand, so she loves getting out and about, and she's really dear, and people love to hear her talk here. And I have a couple of videos where it's just her by herself talking. I could link to some of those. Now my father, Pap, Daddy, who I called Daddy growing up, but Pap now, he died in 2016. And so I don't have any videos of him talking, but there's lots of videos of him singing on the Blind Pig and the Acorn YouTube channel, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But he plays, of course, a huge role. Him and my mother, Granny and Pat, both do in my videos. You'll hear me talk about them and say stuff about them because they raised me, and because they both really instilled in me the love for the old ways, especially Pap, more so than Granny, I guess, but both of them did. And of course, if I want to know something about the old days, that's who I would go to. I'd go to them. All the years of writing on the Blind Pig and the Acorn, I'd decide I would be interested about something. I call Daddy and say, Daddy, what do you know about this? And he'd tell me a story or tell me about, when he was a child. Because, of course, both of them can remember the days of when you rode horses, you rode mules, you had, you did a lot of walking. Mostly you went by Shank's mare. You walked everywhere you went. And then seen that wonderful progression of technology and automobiles and all that to where we are today. But they knew those places, those things intimately. And Papa Tony did too. Papa Tony and Miss Cindy's a little bit younger than my parents, but not too much. But anyway, so that's why they end up playing a huge role, is because, of course, they made me who I am. So I can barely talk about anything without saying Pap or Granny about something. And the nature of Appalachia is that you are born storyteller, for sure. People in Appalachia, you're born telling stories. And you tell stories about what you know. But a lot of times that what you know came from your parents, your grandparents, your aunt and uncles. So you're even telling their stories. Like I tell Pap's stories on here. I tell Granny's stories on here because they've passed them down to me. So then my brothers and my other immediate family with Pap and Granny, I have two brothers. I'm sandwiched in between them. I have Steve, my older brother, and Paul, my younger brother. I say, and it's the truth, I have the two best brothers on the face of the earth. They're both just perfect. I couldn't ask for better brothers. Steve is 5 years older than me, and I'm 4 years older than Paul. So we're kind of spread out there. And Steve is wonderful for many reasons, but he named me Tipper, so he gets the credit for that always. When I was learning how to walk, he was afraid I would fall, but instead of saying fall, he'd just say, she's going to tip over, she's going to tip over. Well, Pap, he just had a real talent for nicknaming people. He liked to give people nicknames, so it didn't take him no time to start calling me I was the Tipper, because I was always about to tip over, and it just took over my given name. Anyway, so that's Steve, and today he's retired from his job and now works at it's local, but a little bit far away from here. It's over the Georgia line, but in a gun store. He works there now. He's retired from his career as a gas man. He's a gas man. And then Paul, our younger brother, he is also retired more recently than Steve, and he don't have no second job, so he's not going to take on no second job like Steve did. And he retired from being a school teacher and a principal, elementary school principal for many, many years. And I'm so happy for him that he's retired. His school, was really sad to lose him and all that. And I know Cherokee County as a whole was sad to lose him because he was a great educator and really cared about the students and all that. But he has so enjoyed being retired. He's really enjoyed that. Now, I forgot all to mention about Pap, he was also, maybe I did mention it a little bit, but music was a huge part of his life, so then therefore that was a huge part of our life. Pap was one half of the Wilson brothers. My Uncle Ray was part of it. My Uncle Henry was part of it on and off, especially in the beginning too, but mostly Pap and Ray. And then Paul, very quickly, he was probably, 14, something like that, when he started playing the guitar, 13 maybe, and then he started playing with them, so he was part of the Wilson brothers as they got older. And then as they began quit kind of singing together, then Paul and Daddy just started singing together. And then in the same manner, as others grandkids grew up and started getting bigger, Ben and Mark played with them some. Corey and Katie sung, and then they picked up their instruments and they started playing. I started playing the bass with them. So then eventually it was kind of, the boys went off to college and then kind of left the little family band. It was Corey and Katie and me and Pap and Paul making music together. And then as Pap got to where he didn't feel as good, it was mostly, and then especially, of course, after he passed away, it was Paul and Corey and Katie and me. And we traveled around, like Paul says, the tri-state area and made music together. So Paul today still makes a lot of music. As I said a minute ago, Corey and Katie's not making as much music today. I'm certainly not, because I'm taking care of the babies, while Corey and Katie do. If they do get to do something, I take care of the babies. So Paul is playing now with three of his friends, Perry, who has actually played with Daddy and Ray and Paul, so Perry Stalkup, Jamie Shook, and Caleb Dykes, and they are doing a wonderful job. And if you want to know more about that and hear their music, you can check out the channel that I referenced a minute ago, Blind Pig and the Acorn. That's our other YouTube channel that I started way back in 2008 when I started the blog so that I could share our family's music. I had to have a place to store that music and then showcase it on my blog. So that YouTube channel is just an archive of our family's music from all the way back in 2008 till today, present time. You can see Granny sing on there. You can see the Corey and Katie kind of grow up on it. You can see my nephews kind of grow up on it. You can see me and Paul age on it. You can see that. You can also hear some of Daddy and Ray's music on there, where Paul's put old videos we had of them, and also some of the recordings they did over the years. So you can even hear Granny and Pap singing together on there. It's an amazing archive of our family's music, so be sure to check that out. And then today, of course, Paul shows up in our videos every week. I talk about the music that he's put on the blog, or the Blind Pig and the Acorn channel that week. He does an old-timey Tuesday and an original Thursday. So each week he's sharing those songs, but often he'll share something else too. This past week he had an extra video where his group that he's playing with now had went to the John C. Campbell Folk School and did morning songs, so that was an extra one. So please check out that and follow it for sure. And then a lot of you, I'll say one more thing about Steve. If you watch our videos, you'll know that he lived here where we live. It's called Wilson Holler by locals. We call it that too. But it's all the Wilson family, my daddy's family, that lives here. All different, cousins and I guess first cousins and second cousins, the next generations is what I was trying to say. Well, my brother Steve lived here, and his wife Kim, I'm going to talk about her next, but they lived here for the whole, their whole marriage, growing up years with the nieces and my niece and nephews grew up here and got married, went off to college and then got married and they're gone. So Steve and Kim wanted to downsize and get a smaller house because theirs is a large house, larger than ours. And Corey and Austin were able to buy it. So now they live here beside us, which is just such a blessing. Wonderful blessing that Kim and Steve are happy where they're at, and then that Corey and Austin are now right here with us. It's just a true, true blessing. So, and Paul lives here. He's got a house here, and then Granny's house is here too, where me and Paul and Steve were all raised. Now, Paul doesn't have a wife. Some people ask that. He's never been married. He doesn't have a wife. But Steve has a wonderful wife, and they've been married longer than me and Matt. And her name is Kim, and me and Kim went to school together. So I've known Kim pretty much as long as I can remember. And I've always thought she's one of the smartest people I know. She was so smart in school, still smart today, works for a local hospital in a very high demand. She's not a doctor or anything like that, but working with technology, part of their, I don't even want to say IT because it's more of that, part of their whole communication system. She plays a huge role in that, so she's still super smart today. But me and Kim grew up together. She's, of course, a local person, and because of that, she is. But I was going to say her family is too. And her daddy, which he's passed away now too, but her daddy and Pap grew up together. So they've got wonderful stories before they both passed away that they could tell on each other, things that happened at school and all that. Even one time that her daddy, Robert, took up for Pap when somebody was trying to bully him. So they got along great and had lots of laughs, and could have just not been more pleased that their children ended up married together, and then they shared grandchildren together. It was just a wonderful, beautiful story. So that's Kim. And then Steve and Kim have 3 beautiful children. I'm really proud of all of them. We'll start at the top, Ben, I mentioned a minute ago. So there's Ben, and then Mark, and then April. April is almost to the day the exact age, 1 year younger than Corey and Katie. Her birthday's almost the same as Katie and Corey's, but a year later. That's what I'm trying to say. So they grew up just so close together. And Ben and Mark was close to them too, but of course they were boys, so they didn't fool with those little trifling girls too much, but they were good to them. And they all get along good, and it's just a true blessing. They're all 3 of Steve and Kim's kids are all married, so they have spouses. And Mark lives way up in New Hampshire. He has a beautiful wife. He has 2 lovely little boys, one of who I've not seen yet. I can't wait to see him. And then April lives in, right now she's living down in Georgia. She's lived in various places because her husband has been in medical school and now he's in residency, so they're kind of having to hop around. But they have two beautiful children. And then Ben and his lovely wife, they live here. They live close to us, not here in Wilson Holler, but close. And they have three beautiful girls too. So beautiful families for Steve and Kim, and beautiful. Now the next generation, those families are beautiful too, just like they are in my family for Corey and Austin and for Katie. So I think that's about it. It may be more than you wanted to know about this cast of characters, but I hope you enjoyed it. And it's interesting to think about. Of course, all of you would want to know, well, who is that you keep talking about? Who's Miss Cindy? Why do you keep calling her that? And who is that? And all that. But it's also interesting because knowing who you belong to, we would say, who's your people? That's a real, like a thread that runs through Appalachian culture. Because the culture of Appalachia is really a familial culture. It's about family, based on family. And because of that, in your community, your wider community, whether it's just like right here in Brasstown or maybe my county or even my region, people that live in Appalachia, I used to say it's almost like we have this giant family tree in our head, in our brain, and we have people plugged into it. And then if we meet you, for example, one time when I was working at the college as a receptionist, it was before I was in the marketing department, a gentleman come in, he's wearing overalls, I don't even know what he needed, but he come in, said hello to me, went on through to the next office, and then when he come back out, he kind of stopped and talked for a minute, and he could tell by my accent that I was a local person, and he was too, and he'd been talking for a minute, and then he said, who's your people? That's what he wanted to know, because he wanted to know how I fit into that tree in his head. If he could connect me with somebody, whoever my people was, then he'd feel like he knew me, even though he really didn't, which is strange, but that's how we look at things. So for me, that wonderful familial culture of Appalachia, wanting to know where people, where they connect. Granny does this to the point that I might talk about one of you, maybe a comment or something, and she'll say, like for example, if your last name was Scroggs, she might say, that might be so-and-so's grandchild. She'll try to connect you, even if you don't even live here. She's trying to make those connections. I would say, well, I don't think so, Granny, because they don't. I think the way they talk, they live somewhere else, and they've lived there their whole life. But she's trying to connect you into that family tree, which is really a beautiful thing, because if you can connect to people, of course, that means you care about them and you love them. And so I'm thankful that all of you want to connect with us, and you want to know how everybody fits in that family tree of Celebrating Appalachia. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video.